Welcome to Global Citizen Life podcast. Today on the show, we have Matt O'Neill. Now, Matt is a happiness expert whose work has positively impacted the lives of over 100,000 people worldwide. He's the author of Good Mood Revolution book and the host of the Good Mood Revolution podcast. Matt teaches us that happiness is a choice, even when life gets tough. His teaching isn't just theory, it's tested in the real world too. Matt has 4 young children and runs 2 successful businesses with over 80 employees. Life can feel chaotic. Matt will show you how happiness is a skill we can all learn and master. Well, welcome to the podcast, Matt. I'm very excited to be speaking with you today.
Oh, Sally, thank you for having me on. What a fun show and fun audience that we have.
Yeah, and I mean, like a lot of people that I talk to generally are looking to move abroad or already have moved abroad. And we all move, whether it's internationally or even across country, for a variety of reasons. And a lot of times, and myself included, have moved because I wasn't happy. Now, what makes us not happy, again, it's 1,000 different things for each person. But am I just choosing to not be happy?
Yes. But we don't know it. Hey, Sally, you and me were the same, right? When I'm unhappy, it is a choice. It's maybe subconscious. This is why we don't know we're choosing unhappiness, but absolutely happiness is an internal feeling and it is created by us within us. And yeah, I say happiness isn't just a feeling, it's a skill. Because when we learn what creates this feeling of happiness or joy within us, then we can do those things more often and create this amazing, inspiring, creative, just full of enthusiasm, emotion more often. And then when we veer out of it, we know what it feels like to be unhappy. We also can start to examine what are the thought patterns, or what am I doing internally to block this natural flow of happiness that should be here? What am I doing to block it? And what I've found is that there's just 8 things that block our joy. There's 8 primary negative emotions. Each of those negative emotions we all experience. They're the same for all human beings. They show up because of external circumstances that then we attach meaning and say, this shouldn't have happened, or this should be better, or this should be different. But those negative emotions are also created by us and our choice of thoughts and our choice of choosing to hold on to them. So once we figure out what those 8 emotions are, we can just clear them out of the way and get back to happiness no matter where we live in the world.
And I've also tried to, over the last probably about a year or so, maybe a little bit more, is to remove the word should out of my vocabulary. And it's
Great.
challenging because I mean, it's easy to say, oh, I should do this, or I should, like I say often, well, I should be happy. When people look at my life from the outside, I'm
Uh-huh.
sure to some it looks amazing.
It is amazing.
But it is. But I want to always say to people too, there's pros and I try not to use pros and cons. I always say there's um uh oh, what's the word? Something like there's pros and challenges. There's good things and challenges in every situation, in every life. Nobody has perfect, easy life that doesn't have challenges. And so trying to remove the word should is challenging, but no, nobody should or shouldn't. Like it's just a word, and I think it's a reason. I feel sometimes that if I say I should, it's like I'm telling that I'm going to use the word again, that I should be doing or feeling something, which
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean I must be or need to be.
And this is, you bring up a really interesting point, Sally, is that um, if we're not feeling happy, then we get down on ourselves and we say, what's wrong with me? You know, why can't I just be happy? And then we get further away from the feeling. So that idea of should is one of the 8 bad moods that gets in the way of
Okay.
happiness. And it is a feeling of guilt and judgment. In this case, it's self-judgment.
Mm.
So let's just go through the 8 bad moods. And once you identify these 8 bad moods, you'll recognize when you go into them. And that
Okay.
is taking us further and further away from happiness. Before we go there, though, let me just talk about what happiness is.
Okay.
Think about moments in your life. And if you're listening to this episode, it's not just Sally and I here. Think about moments in your life when you were ecstatically happy. Like just go back into your life. What was a moment where you were just like, oh, that was amazing?
Um, I remember a time, it was just last year when I do pet sitting. And it's part of the way that I travel. And I got a 3 week pet sit in Rome, Italy. And I love Italy. And I was just so excited that I was going to be in Rome for 3 weeks.
And in that moment, this is the definition of happiness. We were in love with reality exactly as it was, and we didn't want it to be any different. It didn't need to be better. It didn't need to have more. It just needed to be what it was. In that moment, you made a decision. My reality that I get to go pet sit for 3 weeks in Rome is beyond my expectations. It's amazing, right?
Right.
Well, that's the recipe to happiness. So every single day, we get to make the choice. Am I totally in love with reality? If I love everything that's happening today exactly as it is, and it doesn't need to be any different, if I just love it, I'm so grateful for it. I accept it as it is. I love it as it is. And I'm just saying, oh, I'm so blessed. This reality I get today is amazing, just like it was that day that you got to have 3 weeks in Rome. Today will be the happiest day of your life. And the only thing that would block it then is us saying, this reality isn't good enough. It's too hot outside here. There's not enough to do here. I don't have enough friends here. It's not like it could be better.
Mhm.
Well, that thought is keeping us from heaven. So, so there's some things we can do about this. The first thing is it's totally normal for us to say reality isn't good enough today. That's a normal human emotion. It actually comes from this desire for our human body to survive. We are always saying, okay, well, I need to survive. So let me just continue to make things better and better and better and better. And so it's never good enough for the human ego. The human ego is constantly saying, what's not good enough so I can make it better? Well, we cannot be happy as we listen to the human ego. It's really just our mind, the human mind, that gets in the way of this presence of joy. Other times we can be ecstatically happy looking at a sunset, right? We don't need any like special things to be going on. We could be on a walk in nature and we could just feel so connected with this present moment. It's usually when we get our thoughts out of the way and we're totally present, and this present reality is so joyful because it just is without our thoughts. So the 8 bad moods. When I first moved across country, so I haven't moved internationally, but I have moved away from everyone I know and into a brand new place. It's completely different than anything I knew. I was moving away from my hometown and I wanted to get out of my hometown. I had a troubled childhood. We grew up poor, had an emotionally abusive dad, didn't have a ton of amazing memories in that hometown of Waterford, Michigan that I grew up in. And I said, I want something better. Now, could I have found happiness in Waterford, Michigan? Sure. But maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe all of the pull of all of the familiar and the negative emotions and all of that familiar stuff, I would have just stayed in this role as the unhappy teen. And then I would have been the unhappy 20s, and I would have been the unhappy 30s, and then the unhappy 40s. And I might have, you know, fallen into drugs and alcohol on a daily basis. And I could have just said, all right, well, this is life, you know? But I said, I need to change. All these negative emotions, the deep-seated pain that's in this town for me, I do want to go, and I want to go someplace brand new where no one knows me and I can start anew and I can make a new name for myself as who I now want to be. And so
Right.
I moved.
And change is good in at times. Like change is good and it is good for us to change and then to learn new things as I'm sure you did in that move.
Yeah, you learn a lot of self-confidence. When I first moved, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a job. It was really hard for me to get a job. I was just a kid. No one was hiring me. I finally ended up landing a job selling used recycled toner cartridges that go inside of copiers. It was
Wow.
a really low job, right?
What?
But it paid the bills. And then
Hmm.
I made a friend group because they worked in the job, and then we went skiing together, and like I made some great bonds in time, and it ended up being a really great experience. I got to experience what it was like to live near the mountains and go
Nice.
hiking, and I learned to mountain bike, and I'd never mountain biked before, and I learned to backpack camp, and so there was some really cool adventure that happened because of
Mm.
this, and that has changed me forever. But then again, these negative emotions that had come from my childhood, and the main one was shame, this feeling that something was wrong with me, that I was unlovable, that I didn't deserve good things in life. That's one of the eight emotions. It's the most destructive one. And I believed it. I fully believed it. My dad told me that all that stuff was true. I believed him. And, because I didn't like myself, I didn't think I was lovable. Guess what I did? I self sabotaged everything good. And I did that with drugs and alcohol. Like daily drug and alcohol use was sabotaging my career, sabotaged all of my relationships. I'd get into relationships with lovely people, and then I'd be super angry, and then it wasn't a good thing for them. And so there was just a lot of pain when I was believing this a negative emotion of I'm unlovable and something's wrong with me. So guess what I did? I moved again. I said, here's what I'll do. I don't like who I am in this town now. I'll go move to a new town. So I'm in the mountains. I'll go move to the beach. And I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. And that's where I live now. But
And
something, go
the
ahead.
I was just going to say though the problem with that, and I now know it because I've moved several times, is sometimes if the reason that we're moving is we don't like ourself like is always there with every move.
Yes. So thankfully, I was guided though. So I'm a very spiritual person, and I knew something wasn't right where I was in Colorado. I would wake up in the middle of the night in a panic, and I would
Oh,
say, "Where am I?" And I would look around. I wouldn't know where I was. And this happened night after night after night. And finally I was like, if I keep waking up panicked, not knowing where I am, maybe I'm in the wrong place.
that's
And
a good
so
way to see it because that is a very uncomfortable feeling for that to be happening, and there's a reason.
I think our souls are talking to us all the time. God, the universe, whatever higher power we ascribe to, the life is showing us signs, and there's intuitions, and there's gut feels. And I listen to the signs. I pay very close attention. I think the world's a lot more magical than a lot of us think. It's not just linear and logical. It's very, very magical. We're all connected to something bigger than us. And so I
Mhm.
listened to that sign. I said, okay, this isn't the right spot for me. So what is? I went into the mountains and I meditated, and I said, what do I want to do now? Like, what do I want to do with this life? And the answer I got back was, I want to help people. And I said, okay, well, how can I help people? And I thought, okay, I'm a really good salesperson. I can sell these used toner cartridges really
You do
well.
have to be good at sales to do that.
I was really good at it. And I'm like, well, what could I sell? I've got this skill of selling. What could I sell that I would like? And I'm like, man, I could sell houses. I could help people with their home. Like that would make a difference in their life. I could go use this talent to do something good. So I said, okay, well, I'll sell houses. And I had a cousin in Charleston, South Carolina, who sold houses. So I called her and she said, yeah, come to Charleston, come check it out. As soon as I got off the plane, my foot hit the ground and I had this knowing that came over me. that said, this is where you're supposed to be.
Wow.
And it was just like one of these just feelings that it
Mhm.
wasn't a logical feeling. Again, I'm very intuitional. And this knowing, it was like all at once, I just knew I would meet my wife in this town, that we would raise children in this town. It's not even
Wow.
it's not even an explainable thing. You know, it's
Hmm.
just sometimes and Sally, have you ever had intuition like that where you're just like just kind of
Yeah.
blown away by like a feeling?
The first time I had it was actually I was about 15 or 16 in Canada, at school, and it was winter, and I hate winter. And just something, and I remember saying to my friends, I remember saying, I think I was switched at birth. Like, I don't think my parents are my parents. And they thought, really? Like your parents aren't? And I said, not literally. I said, but there's just something like I am not meant to live in this country my entire life. And it
Mm.
was the weirdest thing, but it was a feeling like it was just, and then it kind of
That
floated
just
away.
gave
But
me
that was like the earliest first when I just thought, I mean, even then, if you would have told me what my life would have been like, I would have said there's no way. But there was something that just said to me, like, I am not meant to live in Canada my entire life.
that just gave me chills. It was definitely, and that this is one, and so if you're listening to this episode, think back on your life. What have been these messages that have guided you as you lean into, like Sally just told a beautiful story of this, it's not from your mind. Something told you you are not going to live in this country the rest of your life. And then here you are, global
Right.
citizen extraordinaire. You've been to 50 different countries, lived in five, you know,
Yeah,
and
it's
and
crazy.
you were meant for it. It was your
Mhm.
destiny, and you were living your destiny, and you took the nudge and you fulfilled it. So in Charleston, I did take my own problems with me, of
As
course.
we all do.
And I was guided to Charleston. And I show up there and I start working for a guy, and he gives me a book. And it's The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
Oh, I know that book. I saw the movie when it first came out
And
years
I
ago.
watched I watched the
Mhm.
movie, and it changed my life.
Wow.
That movie, she says it's all about the law of attraction.
Mhm.
And it says whatever vibrational frequency you are on, if it's a really high, happy, loving, joyful vibration, you attract back to you circumstances and people that will affirm love and joy and peace in your life and harmony. And if you're in a really low vibration, anger, jealousy, revenge seeking, hatred, disgust, despise with yourself, if you're in one of these, you will attract back other people with that same energy and other circumstances that affirm that that's your reality. So it's whatever you're thinking and feeling is your life, whether good or bad. And
Right.
I'm like, is this true? And I'm like, could this possibly be true? And then I started to examine my life, and I'm like, man, I've had these failed romantic relationships that went really poorly, and man, maybe I attracted the wrong person, or maybe I sabotaged good things because I didn't think I deserved it, which is what I was doing. All of these arguments I've gotten into, maybe I attracted these negative people to me with my vibrations, like the
Mhm.
money problems I've had, the alcohol, the substance problems that I've had. Maybe all of that is not some force outside of me. Maybe it's all created by my emotions. And so at that moment, I was 25. I said, from this moment on, I am going to study everything I can study about happiness and raising my emotional frequency and my thought frequency to create the most harmonious, beautiful life I possibly can. I'm 43 now. I've been on a journey. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled not to live, but to go study with monks and gurus and spiritual
Wow.
leaders. I've read thousands of books at this point. I've attended so many seminars. I have learned the tactics to rewire our brain away from those eight negative emotions so that we can live in happiness. And that's now I'm just on a mission because I totally transformed my life. It wasn't Charleston. Charleston didn't transform it, but I had to go to Charleston to get that one book that would then start me on a quest of growing
Right.
everything internally so that I could find happiness no matter where I went. And that's what I teach now. So that first root emotion was shame. I'm not worthwhile. It's the heaviest, darkest, most destructive emotion we can have. And it
And I
comes
think
from, go
I
ahead.
think too that that is probably one of the most common ones that people have to deal with because we all skeletons in the closet, as we'll call it. We've all either done things that we're not happy about, been with people who did things that we're not happy about, or had things done to us that we had no control over
Mhm.
that we aren't happy about and feel shame about it. And I would say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if studies or things have shown that, but I think that's probably the one that most of us can relate to the most.
Absolutely. There isn't I haven't met a single person that hasn't had some amount of this wound of rejection, which is what shame is, that to clean.
Mhm.
Now, what's beautiful is it's super easy to clean up
Oh,
because
good.
the thought that I'm unlovable or I'm unworthy of love, which is the root of this destructive emotion, is a complete lie. And lies
Right.
are super weak. Like when you do muscle testing, a lie is
Mm,
weakness, and when you have
yes.
truth, truth is strong. So the truth is we are inherently lovable. That we are just pure love is who we are. You know, in the Bible it says God is love, and as extensions of God designed in his image, we are love. I don't care what religion you ascribe to. The very fabric of the universe is love, and we are beings of the universe. We are pure love at our core. So this lie of shame is a weak lie, and it could be completely obliterated once we go into our subconscious. So the way I teach this in my book, The Good Mood Revolution, is I have you write down, think of us, have you think back on emotional situations when you were
Mhm.
younger that made you feel inferior, that made you feel unlovable, that made you feel
Okay.
like you weren't enough. And then I have you write, what are the words you started to believe about yourself? What were the sentences that you started to form? And now you're, as a 5-year-old, for me, it was, I don't
Mhm.
deserve protection. I don't
Mm.
deserve someone to look out for me, that there's something wrong with me. These were my words. Well, I wrote them all down on a sheet of paper, and then I put a line through the paper. And above all those words, I said, these are lies. And on the right side, I said, what's the truth? And instead of I don't deserve protection, I say the universe has been protecting me my entire life.
Wow.
That's the truth.
That's
And when I started to affirm that truth, I started to see, oh my gosh, I'd already told you a couple stories.
mhm.
I was being woken up in my bed because I needed to move to a new town. That was complete protection, right?
Right.
You were sent on your destiny. Like that was complete protection. The universe was like, you won't be here forever. You're going to go teach the world about how small this world is and how we can just go everywhere. Right. So we're
Mhm.
always guided. Once we start to affirm this truth that we are always being protected, we start to see it. But when we think the lie, I'm not protected, I don't deserve it, we also affirm that. And I can tell you all the times I was harmed and no one was there for me. Right. So the other
It's kind
truth,
of it's like that saying that whatever you think that you will find it. Like whatever you find, you seek it. Whether
Mhm.
the world, especially right now, we could think the world is going to crap, nothing good is happening, it's all bad. And it's easy to find those things to make us continue to believe that. But there's also so much good and so many things that in a way, like it's training the algorithm to show us what we want. And if we think and
Totally.
want the bad, and we're always looking and reading at those bad things, it's going to
Yep.
keep giving us those bad. But if we start reading and clicking on and liking and finding things that are good and positive that are happening, it will start showing us more and more of that good and positive.
Absolutely. 100%. So whatever we believe, we find. So when
Right.
we believe the world is going to hell in a handbasket, I could give you article after article after article telling
Yeah.
you how the world is going completely down the toilet. Now, I have a completely different belief. I believe that consciousness is elevating into a higher and higher state of love, and that over time, you go back to, 2008 or 2000 BC, it was a pretty dark place. You go down to, 1 BC, it was getting a little lighter. You go to 1,000 years ago, it was pretty dark, man. Everybody's chopping everybody's heads off. You go to the beginning of the United States,
Oh,
our founding fathers, they're like, all right, you think these are like the most integrous people ever. Here they are raping their servants. And when they have an argument, they pull out guns and shoot each other in the street. And now here we are, in the year 2024, and we think that it's bad. And we're not
right,
shooting each other in the street when we have an argument anymore, right? Sure, maybe
right.
we shoot somebody with some negative words on social media, but it's different than it was 1,000 years ago. We
Mm,
literally would stab somebody or cut their throat if they said something mean about us. And so consciousness is elevating into higher states over time, but that's my belief, and I see it everywhere. All right, so we take these negative thought patterns and we start to affirm the truth. And then this becomes affirmations. Affirmations are not hokey, they're how we reprogram our brain. By the way, we
mm.
are all saying affirmations in our mind all day, every day. These
Yes, we
negative
are.
beliefs are negative affirmations. They are bouncing around. You're repeating them to yourself all the time. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. You're just silently, subconsciously repeating this garbage affirmation.
Mhm.
And then you have
Even
to prove
even
it's right.
Right, even the little things, like if something happens, you drop a cup and break it, or of course I do. It's just my luck. Like those,
Hmm.
even those kind of little things when something doesn't quite work out, of course, just my luck.
Hmm.
And that just kind of reaffirms that negative type thing. And we don't really think about it because it's so small, right? And if I get
Absolutely.
something wrong, it's like, oh, of course I did. But it kind of then subconsciously reaffirms me telling myself, oh, I'm stupid. Even though I'm not using those exact words, it still does the same thing.
So we're going to move to what you just talked about, which is affirming all that's right that we do. Because again, the ego is always going to show us what we're doing wrong.
Mm,
Always. It's always telling us we're not doing enough because it thinks if we focus on what we did wrong, we'll improve it and get better. But we're not happy. So maybe we'll drop fewer cups, but we'll be miserable. So I'm I'm totally okay with
everything's
chipped
plastic
cups.
now, so it doesn't matter if we drop it.
Yeah. I'm totally okay buying all plastic drinkware, okay, and being happy as can be. So the next negative emotion that we want to conquer is guilt. This feeling that I have to judge myself and judge other people and critique them. And that's I drop the cup and oh, so stupid, or I always do that, or I don't deserve nice things. This is just self-judgment. So to counteract the negative, super simple, and it is the most powerful happiness habit we could ever adopt. I've been doing it every day for like 12 years. You take out a pen and you write down 3 things you did well the day before. Just 3.
Okay.
So you just sit there, and I do it first thing in the morning. I get a cup of coffee, which coffee makes me so happy. I get a cup of
Great.
coffee, and
Yeah.
I'm drinking this. I'm holding this hot cup of coffee, and I got my pen and my paper, and I just sit there the very first thing, and I'm saying, okay, what did I do well yesterday? And so I'll play this game right now. So yesterday was a Monday for me. And yesterday I did a ridiculously hard leg workout. I'd never done it
Oh,
before, and it was so hard and I wanted to quit and I didn't. So check
good.
one for Matt. I did this crazy
Hmm.
hard leg workout. Yesterday was parent teacher conferences and my wife was going to go, and I cooked dinner for the whole family. Check two
Nice.
for Matt, right?
Yeah.
And then yesterday I created a PDF on 10 easy tips to increase your happiness. It was just a
Oh.
first draft. But so
Hmm.
those are my
That's
3 things. So yesterday those are 3 things. I wrote those 3 things in my journal this morning. Well, tomorrow I'll grab my journal and I'll say, well, here we go. I was on this great podcast and met an amazing person, Sally, and had so much fun talking about how to be happy anywhere in the globe. That's one. And, you know, um, let's see. I did an amazing training for my team on how to sign new seller clients. So that was 2. And then we'll find something that happens tonight. So that'll be my 3. It's easy, right? I'm telling you, it's
mm,
easy. Well, here's what happens. This is the rewiring of the brain. All day, my mind is now keeping an open file, looking for where I'm doing things right. because it has to, because I have to write it down tomorrow. So my brain is lazy. All our brains are lazy. And so it was like, okay, well, if you're going to make me do this every day, I'm going to keep a file open so I can collect this information so it's easy to gain for you tomorrow. Well, then while I'm doing things right, I'm like, heck yeah, I'm doing things right. Like I'm crushing it today. I feel so
Like, I can
good.
put this on my list
I'm gonna
tomorrow,
put that
and
on
this
my
I can
list.
my list
And
tomorrow.
then here's the crazy thing, because I'm not judging myself, I'm only affirming myself. Other people around me, I start to notice not what they're doing wrong, not what they said wrong, not how they were mean. I started to notice everything they did right. I noticed their smile. I noticed them holding the door. I noticed that they look nice today. I'm like, and so everything I say now, this is over a decade, is you're awesome. You're awesome. Thank you. I can't believe how great you are. I'm great. I drop a cup. I'm like, oh, there's the cup. Let's pick it up. Right? No biggie at all. So
Mhm.
it's like this simple little tiny habit. And yes, it does take 2 minutes. And you do have to sacrifice 2 minutes every day. It will change your happiness forever.
And it's such an easy thing to do.
We just don't know that how powerful it will be compounded over time. So
Right.
if we write these positive affirmations about how lovable we are and how protected we've been, and we start to and we can read those affirmations every morning, and then we can write the 3 things we did well. Just these 2 little steps start to change everything about the way our brain is wired.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is
We can do that easy in the morning. Like you said, you like to do it as you're enjoying your morning cup of coffee. So people can do that then. Or even if you get a bit busy while you're having breakfast. Some people are, have their mornings are kind of hectic a bit. You're having your breakfast or something to write those things down. Or I'm sure they could probably do it at nighttime before they go to bed.
yes. Yes,
Would be another good time so you
absolutely.
think about your day. And when I have heard that when you go through gratitude at night and you go to sleep thinking about happy things, positive things, good things that you did in the day, that people wake up in a better mood.
So I'm not a night owl. We got to play to our strengths. And
Of course, yeah.
some people have energy at night, and they do count their 3 wins at night, and it totally works. And some people do gratitude at night. For
Mhm.
me, I've got the most energy in the morning, and so that's when I do my happiness rituals. At
Mhm.
night, I'm putting on a TV show, and I'm like just chilling.
Right.
So we've got 4 young kids. We're making dinner. We're like so busy,
Exhausted by the end of
and
the
then
day.
and at the end of the night, my wife and I are like, oh, we cannot wait to just put something fun and juicy on and just turn these brains off for a minute. But yeah, I'm
Mhm. Of
sure if
course.
I had the energy to think about gratitude at night, that I would feel even happier. So,
Yeah,
but
but it's
gratitude
it's
is.
as you said, it's playing to your strengths, right? If you're a night owl, you can do it at night. If you
Mhm.
prefer your energy's best in the morning, do it in the morning. It's
Totally.
as long as you're doing it.
So gratitude is, you just mentioned it. Gratitude is the gateway emotion to all good moods. Gratitude, we cannot overdo it. We cannot say thank you enough. We cannot say I'm blessed enough. We cannot say thank you to God. I appreciate it. I'm grateful. We cannot overdo gratitude if we want happiness. So the complaining mind that we talk about, that, oh, this isn't good enough. I'm not good enough. It's too hot. It's too cold. It's not right here. That complaining mind is just there. It's always going to complain. We counteract the complaining mind with, yeah, but I am grateful I have 2 feet today. There's people that don't have feet. I am grateful my heart's beating today. A good friend of mine just passed away yesterday. This is true.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
and she's got 2 young kids as well.
Oh,
And she woke up, she didn't wake up, and her husband had to deal with that. Right. But I did wake up today, and my kids are
right.
here today, and I get to make a difference today. And not everybody gets to. And guess what? I woke up and my wife was still alive today. I'm so, so thankful. Our, our complaining mind feels so entitled. It's like,
Hmm.
I deserve this life, and I deserve everyone around me to be alive, and I deserve to have my health, and I deserve this, and I deserve that. Well, guess what? We don't deserve anything. We are gifted everything. Our life
I I
is a
I say
divine
that to
gift.
it really is. A few of those things I say to people, like, you never know. for whatever reason, and I don't know why, and I really hope it doesn't happen, but I always say I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Now, hopefully, I never get hit by a bus, but it's just one of those things that I've my entire life I've said, and I've had so many people around me die at starting at an extremely young age. And so that I know like time is the most valuable asset we have, and we should all be very, very grateful for it because you never know when it's going to happen to either us ourselves or a spouse, a child, or anything. And we can always make more money. We can always there's always another trip, another whatever, another dress, pair of boots, like all that materialistic stuff, which we know does not make people happy. And it's time. Like time is the most valuable asset we have. And people have, as you said, this entitlement. And I say to people all the time, you are entitled to nothing. Nothing. You are entitled to what you have gotten yourself.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's beautiful. So now I want to put a habit around gratitude because
Mhm.
I'm the one that feels entitled. I'm the one that says my wife should stay alive with me, that I should stay healthy, that my children should be here for me. I'm the one that forgets this lesson that I could get hit by a bus tomorrow because I'm just human. And
Right.
our human brain is always like, well, yeah, of course it'll always be fine, but I want
And there's
more.
always tomorrow. There's
Yeah.
always next week. There's
Right.
always later.
So I want to evoke gratitude.
Hmm.
And I start with it. So a couple gratitude habits, but we all like I just almost used your word there that you were talking about should.
I know.
We all should do more gratitude. No, I mean in reality, if we want happiness, we will choose gratitude,
Right.
and we're gonna choose to make it a habit. So I start my morning with it. When my first foot hits the ground, I
Mhm.
say thank, and when my second foot hits the ground, I say you. And I walk through the house saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It doesn't matter if my mind is racing, if it's anxious, if I had bad dreams, whatever. I have a habit that when my feet hit the ground, I am saying the words thank you. Those words are immediately setting the tone for everything in my day. I start my day with the words thank you. I have a habit where I pray. And my prayers always, always, always start. I say, God, thank you for today. Thank you that my heart is beating. Thank you that my children are my children, that my wife is my wife. Thank you. And I'll just start naming off things. Sometimes my whole prayer is just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for that. And then I just say amen. That was my prayer. And my prayer was just thanking God or the universe. It doesn't matter. Like it does, like whatever we want to choose to believe, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's just, do
Mhm.
we believe in something bigger than us? And then saying thank you to whatever that thing is that's bigger than us, that's guiding us, that's helping us at all times. And then before we eat meals, this is something I do with my family, and I'll do it in the restaurant. I'll do it in a work meeting. I'll say, hey, do you guys mind if I bless this food? And they say, oh, no, it's fine. Right. Like I've never had someone be like, don't dare bless my food. And I say
That would
again,
be weird.
I say, thank you for this food. Thank you for the people at this table. Thank
Right.
you for today. So these are little, they don't, again, they seem kind of insignificant that I say thank you when I wake up, that I pray to God and I say thank you for my blessings every morning. And then when I eat meals, that I say thank you before I eat. Little tiny changes stack up.
Right.
And over time, you start to say thank you for everything all the time. And that complaining mind gets tinier and tinier and tinier, and your grateful mind gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's almost another way that we could like compound interest, right? They say if every that just that little bit more and you put it back in and a little bit more and you put it back in, or that if you got a penny a day and you doubled it every day in a month, you'd have I don't know if it's $1 million or whatever, however the saying goes. I know I just did
You
not
nailed
say
it.
it the
You
right
nailed
way,
it.
but
I'm gonna say it's right. $1 million in a month. Sounds right.
yeah, okay. And it is those little things. And again, it comes back to whatever you focus on, you will see and it will present. Or, if energy can never, and I remember this from, I don't even know, like a kid in school, science class, energy can never be created nor destroyed. It only transfers. So if we are giving out and transferring positive energy, that is what is going to have that ripple effect of more positive and come back to us as positive.
Yeah, I love this. This is a scientific fact. Energy can never be created nor destroyed. It can only change forms. That also can give us tremendous peace because a lot of the times what's driving these bad moods is a thought um, that we're all going to die, right? The subconscious thing that's behind all of these bad moods is we have to survive, but we all know we won't. So we don't talk about it.
Right.
However, we are pure energy. Look at the
Mhm.
molecules in our body. We are energy. Yeah, it's all we are. Everything is just
Yeah.
energy, and that is what we are, and we know it. We know we're beings of pure energy, and science proves it. It's just what we're
Mhm.
made of. So we cannot be destroyed. We can only change forms.
Right. And we
And
can make that happy or angry or sad or um
yeah, so when we
I'll
get
I'll use the
angry,
word depressed. I always have to be careful with that because I know that there is some people who are really depressed, but a lot of
clinically,
times we
yep.
use the word depressed when really we're just sad.
Yeah, depression's a real thing, and it's one of the eight bad moods as well. And
Mm,
the thing with that one, it's really in the realm of hopelessness. This
mhm.
feeling that life is beyond hope, that my circumstances are so bad that there is not hope that they'll be better. When we're in that negative mood, we need help.
Yeah.
We can't get ourselves out of that one because we truly have lost hope for brighter days. So when we lose our own hope, that's depression.
Mhm.
We do need to ask someone to help us, and their higher frequency, their love, their joy, just that energy field can pull us up. Now, sometimes medication can help. Sure, it can balance some things, but truly
Right.
what heals somebody who's lost all hope is people who have tremendous hope. And being in their energy field can change our energy field. And as
Yes.
we raise our vibrations, we start to feel better and we start to see, oh, life can be brighter. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, like you're saying, so we're just this being of energy. When we get into the emotion of anger, one of the eight moods, all our cells change into anger. There's a really cool study. Sally, have you seen that study where they would hold cups of water and they would say hateful words at them, and then they would freeze the water and look at the molecules under a
Oh,
microscope?
yes. Yes, I have seen that.
It's if you
It's
y'all
incredible.
if you haven't seen this, look up the water study on emotions and hate and emotions and love. Then they would have the same person hold a cup of water and they would say, I love you. Thank you. I'm blessed. I feel so amazing, right? They'd say all this good stuff and they'd send all this great loving energy into the water and they'd freeze the water and they'd look at the molecules and they were the most beautiful crystals, like look
Yeah.
like just the most incredible snowflakes. But the hateful ones were all cracked and distorted, right? Well, that
Yeah.
if we can change the water we're holding in our hands, how come our emotion, we don't think the emotions aren't changing the water in our bodies? Our bodies are made of 70% water.
That's right.
So as we hold hateful, angry energy, our body literally is becoming distorted in cracked and fractured ways. And when we
Uh,
hold beautiful vibrations of energy, the water, all of our cells, all of our energy starts vibrating in a really beautiful, harmonious way. And anyway, so this is so
It's really incredible when you think of it that way because I remember I have seen that and I thought it was so interesting, but I never really thought of that internally. And I've heard there's like, yes, we can, we make ourselves sick and we can make
mhm,
ourselves better.
mhm.
Obviously
We can.
sometimes, medicine helps, but even without it, lots of things are
Well,
kind of brought upon
how do we
ourselves.
describe the placebo effect?
Exactly.
Modern medicine cannot describe the placebo effect. There is no answer. It is beyond logic. How could you give someone a sugar pill and they completely heal themselves from terminal illness? How? It and it
It's the
doesn't
mind. I
happen.
mean,
It doesn't
I
happen
think
every
it's
time, but the fact that it
no.
happens 20% of the time or 30% of the time
Mhm.
shows us that our thoughts completely change the molecular makeup, the biological makeup of our body, and we can heal ourselves with our thoughts. I totally agree with taking medicine and with having
When it's
beautiful
needed.
thoughts. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
or
and I
both.
mean, because if we think about it, like we came like from how we formed, right? Sperm and egg. Like we were cells, nothing, and we formed. So how would we not think that the body has the capability to heal itself? I mean, and we see it. If I cut my arm, sure, the stitches help pull it back together, but the tissue heals. I break my arm, I get a cast to hold it in place, the bone heals. And
How?
so there
How
are
the
ways that
heck?
we can heal that.
How does this bone heal? How does this cut heal? We don't know. It
It
is
just does.
it's so freaking magical. It's just beyond all comprehension. Like how did we grow from this little tiny baby into a big adult? Like how did we grow? We don't know
Yeah.
how we grow. We just end up growing and somehow it
Mhm.
works, right? So
Yeah.
the
And we
world
can
is
say that too about like all life, right? Like how does a plant grow in the crack of a sidewalk? Like there's a weed or something that grows and so really life really is incredible. So to think that, we do have those, I'll say kind of like magical powers almost within ourselves. The body has that to heal. Plants have that to grow. Animals have that to grow and reproduce. And it really is incredible of what life can do.
So everything we're saying right now, these are the happiest thoughts we could possibly have. We are in
Right.
awe at the universe. We are in awe at our divinity, at the divinity of the world, at a weed growing through the sidewalk. We're in awe at this. How did that little weed get in that sidewalk? Like versus, oh, that weed is in my sidewalk. How
They're
did you
everywhere.
how did you get there? You son of those darn landscapers aren't doing their job, right? So again, just this choice of perspective.
Right.
So at the end of the day, our happiness is within our control. We
Mhm.
just don't always know it. And it's because when we were young, we were programmed with some subconscious negative thought patterns. We've never examined them. Now they run our life. And if we want to be happier, we learn about the 8 negative subconscious programs, and then we do the reverse and we reverse them. And then we do happiness habits every day to rewire our brain for positive thinking. And we
Right.
do this and we live a really, really beautiful life. But you were talking about the magic of the world and how powerful we are with our thoughts. We have no idea how powerful we are. Like
We
it's
don't.
insane. You were a
And that's on
15-year-old.
both aspects, how powerful we are of good and positivity and gratitude, but also bad and evil and mean and things like that. And it is unfortunate, like bad things happen. Bad things happen to everybody. Everybody has been through some type of bad, and the degree of bad is perspective. Everything I always say is perspective, even kind of what we think right and wrong is perspective. I have my beliefs and my perspective because of how I grew up, what I learned, what I went through. And I've had conversations with people who have different beliefs, whether it's politics, religion, whichever it may be, or other things. And and to question it, I think is ideally what we should do. Like, why do I believe what I believe? Because I know if I was physically taken as a young child and moved halfway around the world or the opposite side of the world, completely different culture, lifestyle, everything, my beliefs would be completely different
Totally.
because they really aren't mine until I actually question why and come up with a reason. And the best question that I can ask people, and a lot of people who get offended sometimes, is when I say, why do you think that? Why do you believe that? Whatever that may be, and they'll just, because it's true. It's like, Okay. Then I just know it's like, you haven't,
every
like, I
every
question a lot of things. Why do I think this? Why do I believe this?
every belief is true for the
Yeah.
person that believes it. And that's interesting. I love your perspective right here. And what you said is 100% what I believe. Our our life is our choice of perspective.
Mhm.
It's really interesting you said this, being global citizen, that you could have been picked up from Canada at age 2 and you could have been moved to China. And then you
Yeah,
could have been raised by a Chinese family and you would write Chinese and speak Chinese and believe in the Chinese religion, and everything would be different. You would have their
absolutely.
customs, their values, their slang. As a global citizen, you know this to be true,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Then here we are in the US and we're saying people in China are bad. It's just because we haven't been to China and we weren't raised by Chinese parents and we don't know how beautiful and loving they are too. They're just different. Their viewpoints aren't bad, they're different.
They're different.
And
And everybody, one thing that a lot of people don't think, and sometimes people get mad at me when I say this, is you live in the United States, you're getting US propaganda in the media.
totally.
More and more people are starting to get it, but and in Canada, you get the same. It's North American kind of propaganda. Every country gets their own. And so even when I've traveled to places, oh, you're going to go there, it's dangerous, or be careful, those people aren't good. There are amazing people everywhere in the world, and there's bad, mean people in every country in the world,
Yeah.
even Canada. Because people are like, you're from Canada. Everybody's so nice and so great. I'm like, not everybody. Like,
I'm
no,
in Charleston, South Carolina, and we were voted the most polite city in the world for 9 years in a row. And yet 10 miles away was North Charleston, which was one of the top 10 murder cities in the country, for like 10 years in a row at the same time. So it's a really safe place to be here in Charleston. It just don't go 10 miles away. And then I was going to Mexico with my daughter a couple weeks ago. I was taking her on a surf trip, just her and I,
mhm.
and Grandpa called, and he's like, "Oh, I just saw the news. Don't go to
Careful of
Mexico.
Mexico.
Don't go. Yeah, be careful. There's lots of people being murdered in Mexico." And of course, it's a loving thing from him. He's
Of
saying
course.
he loves me. He loves his
Yeah,
granddaughter. He does not want us to get hurt in Mexico.
of course.
And I said, okay, let's do this. Let's look up the safety of Puerto Vallarta and Punta Mita where we're going. And so we did that
Mhm.
and we calmed his nerves. And then we went there. The people were so nice. Like everyone
Yeah.
was nice. Everyone we met, they were the sweetest people. We had the best time with the people in Puerto Vallarta. And we stayed at a resort that was like all locals, and
Mhm.
what we did, we get back after a week in Mexico and we get into the US area and Harper's like, it's so nice being able to understand people around me.
Yeah, I get that. I get it. I know exactly what that's like. And it just shows that's another form of gratitude and appreciation.
Yeah, we take
You
it for
know,
granted. We
it's
take it for
yeah,
granted that we can understand the people at
absolutely.
the counter and that they can understand us. We just take that for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, we really do. I mean, the world is an incredible place. And if people, I've often said before too, I think the world would be an even better place if people were forced after college, or before college, kind of maybe after high school when they're a little bit younger, or college, to move to a foreign country where they don't speak the language for 2 years. If everybody had to do it, because you learn so much more. Um, oh, sorry. You learn so much more, and you're just more open-minded, whether it's culture, whether it's politics, whether it's religion, and sometimes it's just how they do stuff. When I first moved to Costa Rica, they had, what we now have in Canada, a Visa debit card. Costa Rica had it years and years before Canada. And I thought Canada was so advanced. How come we're just getting this now and you guys have had it for years? And so it really is interesting with just how it's different and how open-minded. And as they say, there are some of the I'll say some of the poorest countries are just definitely and not so well off countries that are generally the happiest people in the world. When you look at the variety of those happiness indexes, a lot of times it's not the richest, wealthiest countries that are anywhere near the top.
It's not the US. And this the wealthiest country is not at the top of the happiness. But happiness doesn't come from money and it doesn't come from things.
Exactly.
It comes from everything we've talked about today.
Exactly.
And I think the Ticos are some of the most happy people
Mhm.
ever. They're pura vita, right? Like
Yes.
pure life. And I work with 8 Costa Ricans, and they're lovely.
Okay.
They're lovely.
Yeah.
And my wife and I have been to Costa Rica twice, and just
Right.
love that pura vida like
Mhm.
concept. But we went on a paddleboard,
Okay.
and the guy Mateo was taking us on a paddleboard, and I'm like, hey Mateo, what does pura vida mean? And he said, it means pure life. He
Mhm.
said, in Costa Rica, we think life is so beautiful just the way it is, that our saying is just pure life. That's what's awesome. And
Yeah.
that's everything we talked about today. Just pure life is
Life.
beautiful.
It really is. And as you said, happiness is a choice. And so it doesn't really matter where you live. There's always things to be grateful for and happiness. And if we look at the blue zones around the world where people who live the longest, most of them, it's because they're happy. They have community, they have family, friends, maybe it's the church, whatever their community is. And they spend time outside and with their community. And that's what brings happiness.
Oh, Sally, we could talk about this forever. I've just so enjoyed you and so enjoyed having this conversation.
It's been great, Matt. And so, Matt, maybe once again, I'm going to have all the everything in the show notes. But what is the name of your book again, in case people want it? Your podcast for them to listen to you, and the best way for them to reach out and be in touch with you.
Yeah, the book is available on Amazon, and it's called The Good Mood Revolution. And the podcast, we just talk every week, we just talk about being happy and different ways to do it. And that's also the Good Mood Revolution podcast. And if somebody really wants to go deep and they say, hey, I need a guide on this happiness journey, I've certainly hired those guides myself, and they've made a big difference. I offer coaching on happiness, and you can get in touch at mattoneil.com.
That's perfect. And we will have those links in the show notes. Well, Matt, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. It's been really great talking with you. And I know we could continue to talk for hours. And I know listeners got a lot of valuable information. And so, for everybody who's listening, check out his podcast, get his book. I know I will be getting that book as well. And just thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.